You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
We have a fun event and some wonderful organizations here in St. Louis to share their story with you today. And this involves
about bikes today.
I started to say,
I'm so excited.
do you like bikes?
I do like bikes.
Now, if you could sing hymns while on bikes, then that would be like
sometimes I do.
The ultimate event.
Randomly, and people stare, but it's fine.
Maybe that's what we need is a bicycle hymn sing. But this is going to come pretty close to that. So
yes.
Looking forward to sharing the story with you about three wonderful organizations here in St. Louis and a wonderful event that connects them all. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for your support of the Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Joining us in studio today, Deaconess Dr. Kim Schave. She's Executive Director of Humanitri here in St. Louis. Kim, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome back, I should say. It's been a while since we've chatted about Humanitri.
I think it has. And I'm so tempted to pick on my colleague over here, Sarah, about our football.
Yeah. I'm wearing the wrong color today.
I won't. We'll just talk about this interesting race coming up that's going to be wonderful for the city and the work that we do with homeless individuals instead of dealing with our football rivalries.
Yeah.
Don't make me come over there and break the
Also joining us in studio, Lorri Holtgrieve. She's Director of Development and Communication for Humanitri. Lorri, thanks so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
It is a delight to always share the story of Humanitri. And it's been a while since we've had a chance to really give an update to our listeners about what's going on with Humanitri. And for those who might not be familiar with Humanitri, let's share that story too this morning. Kim, who does Humanitri serve and with help and hope today?
Sure. Humanitri is a very long-standing organization here in St. Louis with a Lutheran presence from the beginning in the late 1800s. They started by reaching out to street children, and it's evolved to where we are now today as Humanitri, where we continue to serve homeless families. Typically, it's a single mother with multiple children, anywhere from 2 up to 6 or 7 children in some of our homes that we're blessed to house them in. Some of them are fleeing domestic violence situations, had nowhere to go, really no personal possessions to speak of, are very limited. So we provide them with a home that's furnished, help them with the resources that they need to be able to get back on their feet and really learn some skills that they may have either lost sight of or may have never been taught just through their years of trying to navigate adulthood and parenthood. So I'm very blessed to be able to do that here in St. Louis.
How does homelessness affect children in the St. Louis area right now?
Well, obviously COVID, any organization that's serving those that are kind of in a marginalized position are really struggling with the effects of that global pandemic. The children were especially affected basically because of school going virtual and not necessarily having the resources. There's what's called the digital divide, which Lorri could speak to from an academic standpoint too, having done some research on that. But just the children in situations like what we serve are just already dealing with such trauma and challenges where they're academically behind as it is, but then to have needed that technology to be able to continue to grow and learn what they need to learn was really a challenge. But thankfully, we were able to find the resources to step up and provide the technology that they needed to the best of our ability to supplement what the schools offered.
And I would say kudos to Kim for that, because we really got to experience the digital divide firsthand with our families and our kids who did not only have access to the technology, but did not have access to the access even to the internet or anything that they needed in order to pivot. So hearing the stories of, well, no child to be left behind with the pivot to online was really something we saw to be untrue for the families that we work with. So Kim worked hard to find grant money during this time to really outfit our families with what they needed to be successful in that endeavor. So that was awesome.
So it can certainly, homelessness can impact children greatly. What are other ways that you see homelessness impacting beyond education for children or for the whole family? What are some other ways that you see homelessness impacting?
What I've learned over the last year and a half with Humanitri is that these families begin to operate in survival mode. So they aren't getting the benefit of everyday things that we might look at and appreciate or whatever. So they're living, either with food insecurity or housing insecurity. And that can take a real toll on you mentally and physically, especially when you can't provide for your children. And we see that carry over into the children as well, where they're not able to thrive because they're so much stuck in that survival mode where they're just trying to make ends meet or find a place to stay for the night. And so it is a really traumatic experience, and one that, we take great care to work through as they come into our program.
Mm-hmm. What is the reality now? I know the pandemic has probably had a huge impact on homelessness in St. Louis. What does that reality look like now for homeless families in St. Louis?
Well, a couple things to think about here. I've been doing some presentations on domestic violence, and it's somewhat, the pandemic has been called or dubbed the double pandemic, because there's an increase in situations involving domestic violence or child abuse because everybody is enclosed in the home at least through the last 16, 17 months, really with nowhere to go, no support systems necessarily to be able to rely on. And then secondly, we have an eviction moratorium right now, which is helpful to families that are truly in need. And we recognize there's, not to get into the political side of that, the other side would be the landlords and how they're supposed to subsist and be able to cover their expenses. But just for those individuals that are already living below the poverty line or in a marginalized circumstance, having reduced income or lost their jobs altogether, and to have children in the picture is just very devastating for a family who is experiencing that. And then to not know if you have housing security and not, knowing if you will get evicted. I think that moratorium was helpful for a time, and we'll see how that plays out. But for now, we continue to help all that we can. A lot of agencies like ours had to close down their intake process too. We were full, couldn't really help anyone else, and that's been a challenge too because the need was so great. So we've been at full capacity for quite a while. We're starting to have some openings as some families are moving out and graduating from our program.
Paint a picture for us. How great is the need in St. Louis right now? Who wants to?
Can I share some stats with you? Great. I'm going to read them because it's hard to keep track of all these. So St. Louis certainly has a large number of homeless individuals. Some of the dates are a little bit, a couple years behind. They do in January each year what's called a point-in-time count, and they go out and physically count on the street people that they are willing to self-identify as homeless. But what happens with that, you're mostly dealing with individuals who are street homeless. When it comes to families, they're usually doubling up. They're living in a car. They're not necessarily being reached in that count. But officially, that count gives a little bit over 1,000, or I should say 800 to 1,000 households that they have found on the street on that one night that are willing to claim that they are homeless. But what we found, the school district, the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, MESE, I think it is, they paint a different picture, because when you're working with the teachers and the school counselors and principals, they know those numbers, and I'm trying to find that here right now. For the St. Louis City School District alone, and mind you, we serve the whole metropolitan area, St. Louis County, Jefferson County, some of the counties over in Illinois, but for St. Louis City Schools alone, they indicated that over 5,000 children were considered homeless. Wow. And there are some other stats out here, too, that are just really... it's just devastating to think about these kids. And again, those are the known numbers. We don't know the unknown. Homelessness for families is just always a challenge to try to really get those true numbers. It's kind of considered a hidden homelessness, too, because they're trying to figure out life and move from couch to couch for a family member or friend that they might know until they get booted and sent off to find somewhere else to live.
So, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say another important stat, just in terms as how it relates to our community, is it's noted that $35,000 a year is what it costs to take care of one homeless person as they are going in and out of maybe institutions or the hospital or different things. That is the cost to our community. So really trying to work with them and find a place for them and support them is a huge bonus for our communities as well.
Sure, absolutely.
And being the accountant, I'll bring the numbers. So you take that number, $35,000 or whatever it may be, we are able to house a family, have them in our program. So it could be a mom, it could be a mom and a dad, it could be a single dad. We have single dads in our program as well with multiple children. We're able to provide that service for about $10,000 to $12,000 a year. By giving them a home. Their utilities are paid for now. Their internet service is paid for. We provide them with in-home case management, try to help them connect with employment services, job counseling, counseling for mental health issues, medical care, things like that. So we really feel like we do what we can on a much smaller dime than what some government agencies are able to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
What is the outlook for them then with all of these services and all of the help that you're able to provide? What does that actually look like for someone who moves through the program and ends up graduating? Because the idea isn't that they'll stay in the program, but that they'll move through and be successful in that. What does that actually look like for a family?
I would say one of the most exciting things right now is our new children's program that actually launched mid-COVID. So it's Together Achieving Goals, and it focuses on really coming around the children and helping them. We have an occupational therapist on staff now who works directly with the children and does assessments. And the great thing about this two-generational approach is that the children are learning what the parents are learning. So they're able to create cohesive family relationships and really work together to achieve success. And ultimately, the children can look toward a more equitable future because they have skills that they might not have had otherwise. So that's been really, really awesome in terms of families leaving our program. I'm sure Kim has other stories of success that
we primarily in the past had focused on the parents, and we helped with parenting and we helped the children with their needs, but we didn't specifically target them. So we usually see anywhere from a 70 to 80% success rate in families exiting our program at the end of 2 years and moving into permanent sustainable housing, which is an awesome goal, and we're really proud of our statistics there. But for those, anywhere from 20%, maybe a little higher, maybe or a little less, families that don't quite get to that point for whatever reason, we at least feel good that we've reached the children in the time that we have had them. So if mom and dad, for whatever reason, fall back into homelessness or fall into some kind of situation that's not as helpful for the children, they've gained some skills and they've learned a different way that they can go forward really in living their lives instead of just living what they have seen demonstrated to them.
Today we're learning about the wonderful organization Humanitri, serving with help and hope here in St. Louis. We're going to learn more about Humanitri in just a moment, and the wonderful connection between Humanitri and other organizations here in St. Louis, and a great event to help all three organizations in just a moment. You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
You're a miracle. You know that, right? A living, breathing, one-of-a-kind miracle. You were created to stand apart, to share your gifts in the service of others, to make an uncommon impact in a common world. And at Concordia University, it's our mission to help you do that, to live uncommon. To learn more about Concordia, go to cuw.edu.
Welcome back to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Today we're learning about Humanitri, an organization that serves in St. Louis with help and hope, and the wonderful ways that they have been able to serve families in need, particularly experiencing homelessness. We're talking with Deaconess Dr. Kim Schave. She's Executive Director for Humanitri, and Lorri Holtgrieve, Director of Development and Communication for Humanitri. Before we went to break, we were learning about how families go through the program with Humanitri and how that has led to success for families moving out of homelessness and into the next chapter in life for them. What makes Humanitri unique or different from other agencies that serve families, whether families in poverty or families experiencing homelessness? What's different about Humanitri, Kim?
The gospel. We, as staff members, our board members, our volunteers, are motivated by the gospel. We want to reach out to Christ's littlest one, share his love, his hope with him, and do that in a way that's going to be helpful and really bring about change that's going to be permanent and sustainable. Unfortunately, there are a lot of programs and agencies out there that are providing great services. They don't have the longevity as far as their programming is concerned, get a lease in their name, And we consider that a win, see ya. And then, a couple weeks later, if they end up homeless again, that's not really tracked. So we just have a long history in the Lutheran tradition of serving these families, again, with that gospel motivation that Christ has called us all to reach out to those in need. And we have that blessed opportunity here in St. Louis to do that among the most vulnerable, especially as we look at the children that we serve too.
Yeah, that makes all the difference in the world.
It really does. Every volunteer group I've worked with have just loved serving as the hands and feet of Jesus among these groups. And it is an awesome thing to experience their passion for our mission and ministry as well. So it's awesome.
Who are some of the partners that you're able to work with in order to do this work to help all of these people?
We work with a lot of different, our intake process. A lot of our families come from local domestic violence shelters, homeless shelters, different shelters that focus on pregnant women or pregnant mothers who they know they're going to need a home after that. So we have a lot of partners in that area. And as well, we're expanding into other ones. One recent one is Sweet Celebrations that actually creates birthday parties for homeless children. So we stumbled across that group, and they've been providing a birthday cake, presents, the whole 9 yards for these children, and we deliver them to the families, and they get to have a celebration. Birthdays are often something that gets put by the wayside when you have to choose between food or presents or a celebration or cake. So that's been a really beneficial one for us. The other one we just connected with was Fair Start, and they actually help people who are marginalized or sometimes not accepted for various jobs to learn their skills and help them to move forward in the job search. And they will help them with resume preparation and interview skills, and actually working with companies that are hiring and willing to hire these people and put them on a career path, which is really awesome. That's a brand new one that we just met with last week. So we're just looking for all different ways that we can come around our families and really support everything they're doing in terms of moving forward.
Tell us more about what it takes, how you're able to serve these families. You mentioned some of the partners. I think, Lorri, you mentioned volunteers earlier as well. I mean, it sounds like connecting all the dots and bringing all these resources together. Yeah. And so tell us more about the resources that are needed to serve these families.
Well, definitely the volunteers. I tell them every time that we couldn't do it without them. They do everything from a lot of lawn care and maintenance to relieve some of the stress from our maintenance manager, Sam, who's a joy to work with. Also rehabbing our homes. Really, for me, our homes are part of communities, and we want families to come home to them and feel like someone cares. So every time we paint a door, put up new numbers, do yard work or lay mulch, all of that is just showing them somebody loves you and cares about you. And it also lifts up their feeling of ownership toward the home. I live in a nice place and I want to keep it nice. So it's really that kind of a thing. So, I'll tell volunteers, I know it doesn't seem like you're doing much, but you are doing so much because you are just showing these families that people love them. And then we have like our Christmas adoptions, where it's a huge program. People can adopt families, and they get wish lists, and that's always a fun day for us. I've only experienced it once, but it was the most fun because we got to go and deliver all the presents to each of the families. So there's just so much we need, all the time of people, time, treasure, prayer. We'll take it all. So
we're very blessed
Yes.
with financial support
Yes.
from generous donors and foundations that support us and understand. St. Louis has an interesting dynamic when it comes to the racial dynamic with poverty and all of that, and there are just so many organizations willing to step up and help. We have to do a lot of grant writing
Yes.
and really find
Yes.
a way to
Yes.
tell our story in a way that's going to take root and be something that a donor is interested in funding. And then we just have long time and even, short-term faithful donors locally that keep us going. And we are so appreciative of every gift that comes through the door. It helps in so many ways.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this work does take a lot of resources.
It does.
Yes.
And a
Yes.
lot of partners and a lot of support. And at the beginning of this episode, we talked about bikes. So
Bike time.
we're bringing in the bikes now, and I'm really excited for this. There's an upcoming Cycle for the City event that y'all are participating in with a few other partners. Tell us about this event.
Yes, and I will expect you to be signed up, Sarah. So Cycle for the City is a charity bike ride, and it's a bike ride, not a race. So it's there's no, winning the first person across the line. It's designed
Not a race,
to show.
Okay.
I mean, you can certainly race if you'd like to. I mean, you
faster
can
than
put
you.
your personal best. But there are places to stop along the way. And the idea is to just showcase the city and the great work that's happening and the great neighborhoods that we have that people might not really happen into unless they're on this bike route. I almost said race. That would be terrible. But there's a 14 and a 34-mile route. So if 14 is doable for pretty much anybody. We have 4 stops along the way for water and rest. Various groups are going to be supporting each of those hydration stations, we're calling them. So that you can choose your route. It's a rules of the road ride. So there's no closed off streets. So that makes it a little more difficult. It's not really being billed as a family event simply because we're going to be going through traffic and we'll have people at lights trying to help navigate that. But it seems it just is kind of a better idea to keep it for adults at this point. But the great part of this has been the collaboration between the 3 organizations that have been doing it, because I personally have learned so much about Christian Friends of New Americans and about Lutheran Development Group, who are the other 2 who are working with Humanitri on this event. And it has just been awesome to see everybody come together and sharing resources and time and energy and skills and everything to create an event that really showcases all 3 organizations in such a great light. And as part of the city, we're all working to really help the city and to really enliven the city and get people more engaged in the work. So that's been a great part of it too.
So it's a ride, not a race, Sarah.
Right.
Okay.
But you like to ride your bike just for fun too,
I
right?
ride here every day, yeah.
Just for fun.
Just for fun.
So get out and ride through the city, see the city, and see all the, as you mentioned, Lorri, the neighborhoods and by participating in this, you're supporting Humanitri, Christian Friends of New Americans, and Lutheran Development Group. We're going to learn more about them in this little mini series on the Coffee Hour, which I'm excited to get to share. How do we? I don't think we mentioned the date yet of this Cycle for the City.
Or the registration.
Yeah.
There you go.
The date is September 6th, and registration on site begins at 8 a.m., but we prefer that you register online. It's $30, but you get a great T-shirt and some awesome swag, so totally worth it. And you just need to visit www.cycleforthecity.org.
Now, if I remember correctly, September 6th, that's Labor Day, correct?
Yes, it is.
So you've got the day off, probably.
Right.
There's a good chance you got the day off. So you can get out on your bike and enjoy the city and support these wonderful organizations. Cycleforthecity.org, correct?
Yes.
All right, Sarah, what are your bike questions? Do you have bike questions about this event?
Well, I was going to ask more about the routes. You mentioned the neighborhoods, and I'm looking at the maps right now. Where does this start, and where does it actually ride through? Because these are probably fairly, if you ride a lot in the city, these are probably fairly familiar neighborhoods for some people. But tell us about the actual route.
Yes. So the actual route will be better explained by Harry. But anyway, I will say we're starting in Benton Park and we're ending in Benton Park. Mm-hmm. So I know it goes up through Limay. It jumps onto Grants Trail. I know that much. So, and then I think the 14-mile turns around and starts to come back at that point, and the 34-mile goes way further.
Yeah, it actually comes fairly close to us over here in Kirkwood.
Really?
Yeah, because it'll come all the way up Grants Trail and then through like Webster and Maplewood, along this following some of the Greenway trails.
Yes.
So it'll be a nice Greenway ride too.
Yes.
I like the greenways.
We
And
tried to
Benton Park
use,
is wonderful. That area is beautiful.
Yes. And I think we tried to stick with a lot of it on trail. So there's not a whole lot of road riding, but it's an opportunity to see the lovely trails that we have here. Oh my goodness. Grants Trail is great too.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
It sounds like a lot of fun. Now, Kim, are you a cyclist? I know your hubby is.
I was going to say, I'm married to one.
That's close enough, right?
But you have to share what he's doing the day before, because he's doing some kind of triathlon the day before.
I think he was going to do a triathlon, so he is not going to be racing you. He said this will just be a ride because he has a race the day before.
That's fair.
So I am a triathlete spouse, I guess. I ride for fun, but he takes it way too seriously.
CycleForTheCity.org is where you can sign up to participate in this wonderful charity ride, and we'll learn more about the other organizations, Christian Friends of New Americans and Lutheran Development Group, in coming episodes of the Coffee Hour. How can we learn more about Humanitri and the wonderful work you're doing? Maybe even if we need to connect a family to you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can go to our website, which is www.humanitri, so humanitri.org, or we have a Facebook page if you just want to Google that or try to get on Facebook and look for Humanitri.
Have we ever talked about the history of the name where that
No,
came
I'm
from?
always curious.
3 organizations merged in 2006, Friends of Moms, Lutheran Ministries Association, and Good Samaritan, which was the homeless piece. And so I think it was the human care and then the TRI try, because there were 3. And so we have the tree as our logo. That's how I understand it.
Humanitri. Outstanding. Well, thank you both for being here today, for sharing about Humanitri, the wonderful story of Humanitri, and how you're serving families with hope and help here in St. Louis, and the exciting event, Cycle for the City, coming up September 6th here in St. Louis. You can find out more at CycleForTheCity.org. Are you registering right now, Sarah?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I saw her typing on her computer.
Thank you, Sarah.
Registering as we speak. Our guest today, Deaconess Dr. Kim Schave, Executive Director for Humanitri. Kim, always a pleasure to get to talk with you.
Thank you so much for having us.
And Lorri Holtgrieve, Director of Development and Communication for Humanitri. Lorri, nice to meet you, and thanks for being our guest.
Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you all sign up.
You've been listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Glissett.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.